Welcome to Iridium. The guys are here. How you doing, everyone?
Great.
Cool. It's the end of the year. It's the end of the year. What a fantastic year it's been in music. I've already done my top albums, but I need to know everyone's top albums, and it's really interesting. We've got some, gonna have loads of variations on here. We're gonna have some prog, I'm sure, and I know I'm looking at now, Karen.
Probably.
We're gonna have some straight up metal, and I'm looking at Ralph probably for that. Some, some riffing going on. I've been watching Todd's lists on Facebook. He's been giving these like albums under Dom's albums of the year, so I've got an idea what Todd might be talking about. And of course, Mark Lower's here. How you doing, Mark? You all right?
I'm fighting a cold, but I'll make it.
Yeah, so Mark's been a bit down in the dumps a little bit. He's feeling a bit of cold. Mark's going to stay with us for an hour to let everyone know. Then he's going to hop off, but give us the rest of his albums. And there's a few people who couldn't make it today, but it's been a bit of grief to get everyone on the same show. We literally had 8 lined up for this 4-hour show. That would have been, wouldn't it? But a few people can't make the date, and here we are at the end of the year. What a great year it's been as well, hasn't it, everyone? What a great year. I mean, for years, I reckon up to probably 2010 at least, I would only look back at 1980 to 88 maybe as the best years in rock and metal until recently. And I would say, we just had a conversation before that we press record, that the last couple of years have got to be up there with the best years in rock and metal. Isn't it great? Isn't it?
Definitely.
The next generation.
It's amazing. It really is. It really is amazing. So all this is we've chosen 5 albums we want to talk about. It literally, guys, it doesn't even have to be if you want to do your top 5 albums, that's cool. I mean, I've spoken in length already, done my top albums and all that, and my top songs. So what I'm going to do something a bit different, which I will tell you when I pick my first one. I'll tell you why I've chosen the ones I've chosen. So we're just going to go around the houses, going to give a quick, a lot of these albums as well we might not know. So, and people at home might be able to, get a good suggestion out of it. So what I can see on my little thing, I can see Mark first, if that's all right, Mark. That works out well, actually, doesn't it? And then It goes Mark, Todd, Ralph, and then Karen. One all right with that?
Cool.
Good. Right, Mr. Mark Clower, what you got for us, mate?
Yeah, I've got a road trip coming up here in about an hour, so I'll get off as many as I can, then I'll rattle them off, I guess, what I can't get in rotation at the end there. I didn't really rank these as far as preference per se, but if pushed up against the wall and forced to give you my favorite album of the year, this might be it. Primal Fear.
Oh, yeah.
Excuse me. Code Red. Some of the riffing on this motherfucker is just I've known of Primal Fear for a lot of years, but this is the first album I actually bought. And I bought it because of Lee's reaction to it, and it just blows me away. I mean, that's some of the best riffs I've heard in decades, honestly.
Wow. Yeah.
So this is going to end up costing me money because I'm gonna have to go back now and buy all the previous albums. But
yeah, there are another 13 you have to listen to.
Yeah. So
to tell you the truth, mate, they're one of the most consistent bands as well. They haven't really had a dip since the 19. Correct me if I'm wrong, Ralph. You might know. Did 97 the first album, something around that era? I think it was about then.
94.
It might be. It was definitely 90s, but they just have been so consistent.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
I've gone back and listened to certain tracks from previous albums, and they're all in that same vein. I mean, they mix it up a little bit. I mean, they've even got a ballad on here, which I don't imagine they're really known for ballads per se, but it's a great ballad. But yeah, just some of the guitar work is just off the charts. And like I said, it might be my favorite album of the year. I've listened to it consistently since I bought it. It hadn't left the the car since I bought it. So that's a pretty good sign that it's going to hold up well and weather well over the years.
And I know that we're old, Mark. I'm just speaking for me and you now, all right?
Yeah.
I know that, like, we always, don't we, when we look at newer bands, anything that's post 1990 we think is new. I know.
Yeah.
But I mean, you imagine that the singer on the album has been singing like that since the like the 90s, and he sounds amazing. Still, Ralph Sheepers, he's just mental, absolutely mental.
Like I said, I'd heard of them, I was aware of them, but I'd never really delved into them too much till I heard or watched one of your videos, and I said that's pretty damn good. So I went ahead and ordered it, and I'm glad I did. The last song, Fearless, is probably my favorite. That riff is it's like a machine gun. It's just off the chart.
Oh, I'm glad you found them. I'm really glad you found them, mate. You're gonna love them. You really are, all of it. So no, that's cool. Thanks for your first pick, mate. That's brilliant. I wasn't expecting Primal Fear, to tell you the truth. I was, but maybe from someone else.
Yeah, I meant to mention. I'm afraid I might step on Ralph's toes on a few of these, but I feel like he might have a couple of these. So,
Yeah, definitely.
Anyway.
No, very, very cool pick. Thanks for that, mate. Much appreciated. Todd, how you doing, mate? You all right?
Very well, thank you. Thanks for having me on again.
Yeah, no worries, mate.
Yeah, as you were talking about how great this year was, I counted up 40 studio albums that I bought this year, and which is on par with the last couple of years. And I had 24 of them that I rated an 8 out of 10. And that's compared to the last 2 years, there's 15 of those were 8 out of 10. So it's a pretty darn good year. I'm going to go ahead and go with 5 to 1, starting with number 5. This is a band I really don't know a lot about, just from this channel and some other places that have talked about it. So I thought, well, I'll give it a shot. And they're from Sweden, and it was released on September 1st of this year. It's Eclipse.
Oh yeah.
Megalomanium.
Yep.
Like I said that right?
Yep.
I honestly, like I said, I don't know a lot about them, so I'm not going to talk a whole lot about them. Other people here probably know them a lot more than I do. I know, Lee, you reacted to the whole album at one point, didn't you?
Yeah. Yes, mate.
I know you're pretty familiar with it. So
oh yeah.
I'm not going to go into too great detail, but it is their 9th album, first since 2021's Wired. It's on Frontiers Records, and it was produced by Eric Martinson, and he's the singer and guitarist. So Hearts Collide is probably my favorite song on there, but there's a lot of good ones. A lot of good ones on this one. Really good, great melodic hard rock stuff. So I really enjoyed it.
Oh, man, what a pick. What a pick. I mean, as well, we talked about consistency with Primal Fear. That's probably the band as well, alongside of them, that probably the first couple of albums they're finding their feet, and then after that, one after the other, just about 5 or 6 albums now have been outstanding. Yeah, great pick, man. I've interviewed Eric Martinson as well, if you want to check that out.
Oh, have you?
Great, yeah, great guy. Yeah, really, and he's really prolific in the world of producing as well. He produces so many like other artists that you may not know about. When you hear a really good Swedish album or European album, it's usually his name on it. Right. So yeah, he's great. Right. He's really good.
Yeah, so I'm like Mark, as I'm going to be losing some more money this couple of years because I got to pull back into their old stuff. So
that's called an investment. It's not losing money.
Yeah, exactly. What a great pick. Thanks, Todd. I'm loving this because this is, well, that's 2 so far I love as well. Ralph, come on, mate, give us some metal. What you got?
Yeah, I already feared that I have quite some overlap with Mark. So Primal Fear definitely was on my list as well, but I'm happy to know that I have like 2 or 3 extras, so I can actually fill it up, so that we don't have to talk about overlapping albums. So my first one would then be Martin Simpson's Destroyer of Death, Eternal Rain, which I think is a bombastic album. So many good songs, and Rob Rock sings like heaven. CJ Grimmark on guitar is just great, and yeah, titles like Holy Ground, Never Surrender, War Within, Glory to the King. Those are just classics from my perspective. So that's really the next generation of classic heavy metal, I would say, that we're now in for about 1 or 2 years, maybe 2 or 3 years already. So Martin Simpson's Destroyer of Death, Eternal Rain is my first one.
An excellent pick, an absolutely brilliant pick. I think it's my number 3 of the year, actually. So what a superb album that was. You like that one, Mark? You heard that one?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, isn't it great that there are still fresh ideas coming out? You know, it's not everything just being rehashed.
Yeah, agreed.
Old stuff, you know, there's fresh new stuff coming out every year, so that gives you hope that,
yeah,
you know, I hate the cliche, but heavy metal will never die, you know.
Oh yeah. I mean, Rob Rock as well. That's got to be one of the most outstanding performances at his age. He must be like coming on for 60 now. I would have thought Rob Rock, and he sounds outstanding on that album. It's superb.
Yeah. I also compared it to a re-release of all of Impelliteri's work, which now came out as one big concise collection called The Ultimate Beast or something like that. And Rob Rock sings most of these albums as well, and you can directly put them side by side, and it's just immensely great music. And Martin Simpson's album is a debut album.
I know. Yeah.
That's really cool. So yeah, I'm very pleased with that release.
Yeah, great pick, mate. I love that one. Karen, how are you?
I'm really well, thank you. Yeah, this has been one of my favourite years for new music in living memory. I think it's even better than last year, and I thought that couldn't get any better. But 2023 has done it. So I'm going to go from 5 to 1 as well. And I'm going to start at number 5 with Catatonia's Sky Void of Stars. Catatonia, they're a Swedish atmospheric progressive metal band, I think you could call them. I love this band. They are the masters of melancholy, and they are so consistent as well. It's an album of really great depth and texture. This one, I think it's my favourite album of theirs since 2012's Dead End Kings. And that's the album that I generally recommend that people would go into Catatonia with if they ask me. But this is my favourite album since then. And it's so good. Even the bonus track, Absconder, is great. It is wonderful music, and they've got some awesome guest vocals on one of the tracks called Impermanence by Joel Eckloff of Soen as well. So he's on the album too. And the music's fantastic. The vocals, Jonas, he's one of my favourite vocalists, and it's not because he does vocal acrobatics. It's the tone of his voice. It's just so rich. And listening to Jonas, for me, is like being wrapped in a woolly blanket. I love it. So yeah, Sky Void of Stars by Catatonia is my number 5.
Brilliant and lovely put, and it's a great album, by the way. I do like that album. I think about I don't know if you guys know, I've said it before, but I've got like the 2023 playlist, and like my favorite songs of that year will make it onto my playlist of all time, and I think about half of that album made it on, but I can't take everything with me, but half of it really is brilliant, and the other half is really good. But I have to be picky. But Catatonia, yeah, great band that I've been introduced to as well this year. I think.
Wonderful band. I know Jam and Dom are both big fans of Catatonia as well.
I'm expecting to see them in. I know Dom's doing his album he's doing an album every day for the month. But I think that's going to definitely be there. I don't think it's been there yet, but it definitely will.
I think we'll see it at some point. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a great album. Thank you very much. Cheers, Karen. Okay, so yeah, I'm not going to go 5 to 1. I've already done my top 30. So, but what I am going to actually, I think I mentioned this to Ralph. What I'm going to do for this one offline, but I'm just going to talk because there's so much good British music this year, which I didn't really realize until I started doing the reactions and finding all these bands that are sort of, you know, more as hidden from us. And I noticed how much great British music there was. So I thought I'd sing the British band's praises for once in this show. And there is actually 5 that made it into my top 30. That ain't bad, is it? That's a good number. So I'm going to do it in order of release date. So the first one that came out this year, British band, is Doomsday Outlaw and Damaged Goods. It came out on the 3rd of February. This is like a southern rock, little bit bluesy, classic rock as well. It's the 3rd album, first time I've ever heard the band. Phil Paul on vocals, he is a rock star. I've seen him live now as well to witness this on stage at Plymouth, in the Junction at Plymouth. Just a brilliant to watch this band, brilliant to hear them. They sound excellent live. A few tracks on here that if you want to check out: the ballad "If This Is the End," "Turn Me Loose," really funky sort of song, brilliant song. "One More Sip" is excellent, and "The Little Things" as well is an excellent ballad to finish the album off. But one of my favorite albums of the year, of course, that's why I'm talking about it now. But what a great band, Doomsday Outlaw, just come out of nowhere for me right at the beginning of the year. Obviously, it's had a lot of rotation on my shuffle, one of the most rotations it's had because it's been released so long this year. But an excellent album. Doomsday Outlaw is my first one. Damaged Goods, it's brilliant. Okay, that's my first British one. We're round 2. We up to Mark. What you got, mate?
Okay, I'm probably the only one that's going to have this one, but you never know. Elegant Weapons, Orange for a Halo. This is Ronnie Romero, Richie Faulkner from Judas Priest, Scott Travis from Judas Priest, and Rex Brown from Pantera on bass. I guess it's kind of a project. I don't know if they're going to actually do any touring or anything, but really good album. Kind of a mix of really heavy stuff, some more melodic stuff. There's one track that's real bluesy, which I think Rex Brown kind of brings that, maybe that bluesy influence a bit. But really good album. I know Lee's not the biggest fan of Ronnie Romero, but and I'll admit sometimes his voice can be like fingernails on a chalkboard on certain songs, but on this one he sounds really good. I think he polished his vocal chops a bit since he first came on the scene with Rainbow a few years ago. And he sounds really good on this, real powerful voice. And Richie Faulkner's a great guitarist. I don't follow Priest as closely as Ralph, I know, but really impressed with his guitar work. And just a real good, catchy album with some good hooks, and just find myself playing it a lot.
I think with Ronnie Romero, I think you can't really say it's overexposure anymore, which a lot of people said it was, because there's so many musicians now that are everywhere, like literally on everything, aren't they? Eric Martinson's a good example of that. He does a lot of stuff, but he won't sing all the time. He'll play the guitar. But I think there are some musicians out there, don't they, that they're just on everything now. So I don't think that's something you can't say anymore. I've got to say, technical ability, Ronnie Romero, I've always said it's amazing. He can sing anything. But sometimes it's just that thing in it, that tone or something that. But I've heard some stuff off of that. I think he does sound better than anything he's ever sounded on before. To see the truth.
Yeah.
On that.
Yeah, they did a cover of UFO Lights Out on there too. It's a really good cover.
Great track. I think Todd's in acceptance of this one, mate, by the looks of it. You like a bit of that album, Todd?
Yeah, that's an honorable mention for me. Definitely.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Very cool. Very cool.
I didn't know if anybody else would have heard it, but
yeah. Brilliant, mate. Thank you very much. Todd, what you got, mate?
All right. This number 4 for me is one I'm going to nominate for the comeback album of the year. And there actually was several comeback albums this year. I counted over 15 bands that hadn't released an album in over 5 years. And that's just the ones I was paying attention to. I'm sure there's several more. And there's like 3 of them that have been 20 years or more that I was aware of. And this is one of those. This is for last album was released in 1998. And they're a US band from Philadelphia, Heaven's Edge. Get it right. Released May 12th. It's their third album. And really, you know, no one cared about their album in 1998. So it's really since 1990, which was their debut. So it's been a long time, but it really is an amazing album released on Frontiers. They self-produced it. They must know what they're doing because they really sounded really good. And again, melodic hard rock is going to be a fairly common theme for my list. I thought, well, all of these kind of sound similar. Should I pick something else? I thought, no, I really want my top 5. So that's what I went with. But yeah, great stuff. Like I said, great comeback album. And 3 of the guys are original still. So, and including the 2 main, you know, songwriters and drivers of the band. So it's good to see these guys still out there doing their thing and doing it really, really well. So if you haven't checked out Heaven's Edge, get it right, please do. If you like their debut, you'll like this quite a bit.
And it's another great comeback story, mate, like you said, isn't it? I mean, man, I mean, they were just sort of like onto a loser from the beginning, weren't they? Coming out their first album, I think it got delayed or something for some reason. Like if that debut album came out in '86 or '85 or something, that would have been like, that would have just been huge, you know. And of course, grunge, and then '98 the second album. But it's a great album and a great story. Yeah, I've got to say, and there's some standout tracks on that album. So that's another great choice. Thanks, mate. Much appreciated. Ralph, what you got, mate?
Yeah, my number 4 is actually a band that made a major step upwards this year. And you should know I'm an extreme big fan of the group Treat. I've been a major fan in the early days of Hairspray metal and latex trousers and whatever, and they were just huge during that time. And everybody wanted, those guys that I knew from bands wanted to sound like Treat and have these sort of master choruses and melodies and so on. So this year we had a new album from Temple Balls called Avalanche. And that to me came extremely close to the early Treat when you look at the songs and the melodies and the choruses, and of course a bombastic production as well. So songs like All Night Long or Strike Like a Cobra. Strike Like a Cobra could be a Treat song from the early days, one-on-one. So some of those really reminded me of Treat, and I felt treated. From that perspective, yeah, Temple Balls Avalanche is my number 4.
Yeah, what a great album, man. Well, you guys heard that? That's a really cool album, quite heavy at times. Like you said, a massive step up, I think, as well, even though they've always been a good band. Some of these bands just all of a sudden find their feet and they do a bit of a special album. That is one great album. You heard that one, Todd?
Yeah, I have. I just got it here recently. It was a recommendation from a Facebook group. I was like, well, I want to make my top 10 albums. What should I be listening to? And then everybody, of course, all over the place. But Temple Balls kept coming up. And I think that Lee, you had reacted to them. I heard their name, I think. So I thought, well, I'll give it a shot. And it ended up being my number 11 this year. So it was really, really good. Thank you, Facebook group. You did an amazing job. I have 2 of mine. Eclipse was one, and another one yet to come were ones that they suggested. So they were in my top 5. So
I mean, obviously Europe has been banging these bands out, this melodic hard rock for a little while now.
Right.
But you know, there's a few bands in there that are like at the top of the game, you know, they're almost like the top level, but Temple Balls are like, with that album, I think are really getting there. So yeah, great album, really cool. Okay, Karen, what you got for us?
Okay, this number 4 is an album that I thought up until September this year might actually be my album of the year. It's called Take Me Back to Eden by the band Sleep Token. They are a masked anonymous band. They're British. They're from London. I think they formed in 2016. And I'd not really checked them out before this year because I guess I saw them as a little bit of a gimmick, wrongly, I think. Now, this is metal, you could say, very, very experimental though. I mean, it's musically really, really adventurous, this album. You've got, bits of pop, jazz, even R&B type sounds in there, but mixed with this kind of metalcore kind of sound at times. Even got one of the tracks sounds black metal right in the middle of it. I mean, I think there's some really, really skilled writing going on this album. And I got introduced to it by a friend from a prog forum as well on Facebook. He said, you must listen to this track. The title track is an 8-minute epic track with loads of different kind of flavors in it. And I heard it and thought, wow, that is really, really impressive. Checked out the album, and I really do think that this band are very unique. And I don't honestly think there's many bands you can say that about, really, these days. So, yeah, I was blown away by this album, and I really thought, up until September, when a load of other great albums came out, that this might be my album of the year. But as it is, it's number 4. So that's Take Me Back to Eden by Sleep Token.
I mean, you're really right about they almost like I haven't heard much of their stuff, to tell you the truth, Karen. I did a reaction to one of the songs which I liked.
Chokehold you did, didn't you?
Chokehold, which was I think is the best song on the album, but I've only listened to the album like once, so I can't give a really, I mean, it is the best song, but to me it was like the standout one. But they've almost got like, there's little bits of their music which I think sound like other bands, but they don't sound like, but they're very standalone. Like they have got lots of stuff going on, and they
very clever,
and they've caught on as well, haven't they? They found something.
Oh God.
You know what I mean? I know that melodic rock, which most of us are into in this, or melodic hard rock and straightforward metal, ain't never going to be headlining festivals much, especially now that when the old bands go, but bands like that will be.
They will be. I mean, they announced a gig at Wembley Arena next year, didn't they? Sold out in 10 minutes. 10 minutes.
There you go.
So, yeah. They're a band of the future. Oh, they already are, but yeah.
No, I agree. Thank you very much, Karen. Thank you very much. Right, my second one. I won't take too long on my ones because I rattle on too much on my own shows. Okay, so this is probably, out of my bands, it's definitely the most famous one out of the British bands. It's a classic band, Tigers of Pantang. I mean, you can't get more classic than that. So this came out at the beginning of May, the 5th of May, actually, on Mighty Music. It's album number 13, so not that many, considering this band were out at the same time as like Iron Maiden, Saxon, and all those bands right at the beginning of the new wave of British heavy metal scene. I remember I had a single of theirs, which was a cover of Love Potion number 9. Remember that song, guys? In that 60s song in it. And I loved it way back when I was a little sprog. And that weren't Praying Mantis, was it? It was Tigers of Pantang, Love Potion number 9, I think. I get them two bands confused because they were about at the same time. But this album, man, one of the best productions of the year, I'd say as well. It sounds massive, this album. It's such a great sound on this. Rob Weir is the main guy in this. He's still around now. He was there from the beginning. Some rocking songs on here. My favourites are Back for Good, which is a really cool sort of AC/DC-esque sort of thing going through it. A New Heartbeat, which is probably my favourite song on the album, and it's probably the closest thing to new wave of British heavy metal on the album, and it's just fantastic. But there's 2 ballads on here, well, sort of ballads. The last one, Making All the Rules, which just sounds like, it's a song that sounds like, when you hear something for the first time, you think it sounds like something that's so classic, but it's not. It's an original song. That song is one of them. And Taste of Love, which I've grown to like more and more. That ballad is just fantastic. It's a brilliant album from Tigers of Pantang. It's called Bloodlines. Kind of even forgot about telling you what it's called, but it's all got mixed reviews in, like, you know, when like on the sites and that. But it's a brilliant album. I can't understand the mixed reviews. It's just fantastic. So there you go. Tigers of Pantang and Bloodlines.
And just so you know, I looked on Wikipedia, and it does say Tigers of Pantang did that song in 1982.
I always get confused, mate, with Praying Mantis and Tigers of Pantang. I think, who did that? Because they're, in my opinion, Tigers of Pantang are much. Praying Mantis are still around as well, but Tigers of Pantang are the band from that era for sure. For me, really consistently good as well, and they've become this sort of melodic hard rock band as well now, rather than a British metal band, if that makes sense. But they've got elements of both. It's just amazing. Okay, Mark, I think we're going to have enough go for another round as well, mate. So just one album.
I can definitely squeeze one more in, maybe two more. This is another one you turned me on to. Evil.
Oh yeah.
The Unknown. For anybody that hadn't heard them, if you like old Metallica, you'll like this album. It's my understanding, I hadn't gone back and listened to, I think I listened to one previous song from an earlier album. My understanding, they were a little more extreme type thrash on their previous albums, and this one, I guess it's intentional because the guy sounds a lot like Hetfield.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's his natural voice or if he's intentionally trying to mimic James Hetfield's voice, but very Metallica-ish, more doomy, maybe sludgy than some of the, you know, full-on fast thrash stuff that they might have done earlier, I guess. But yeah, again, when you did I think it was on the title track, The Unknown, you did a reaction to that. I said, oh yeah, I can get into that. So ordering that one, and the whole album's really good.
Nice. Apparently reading about them, because I've only found them with this album as well, Mark. Never heard them before. But this is apparently their album that's the most, because they used to be a Metallica tribute band, I think.
Okay.
Before.
Okay. Well,
So
there you go.
there you go. So they're massive Metallica fans. They don't, they're not ashamed of it. They actually, love Metallica that much. But this is more like their, and I can hear this. They reckon this is like, this is not what they said, but the press say this is like their Black Album.
Okay.
And really, you can hear that, can't you? In the production is massive as well. It sounds just like as good as the Black Album, and the Black Album is one of the best produced albums ever, isn't it?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's
They're
a great
British
album.
too, are they British?
Yeah, they're British. Yeah,
I thought they were. Yeah.
but yeah, no, a very cool band, very cool band, and I love that album. It's a great album. Cheers, mate. Thank you very much. Todd, what you got, mate?
What was the name of that album, Mark?
The Unknown.
Yeah, Evil is the band's name.
Evil. E-V-I-L-E.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Yeah, you'd love that. Hear that as well, Todd.
I haven't heard them. I've never heard of them, but I might check them out. Yeah.
It's worth checking out.
Yeah.
All right. So my number 3 has a number in it, and it seemed like there was a lot of albums with numbers this year. I mean, there was a 1, there's a bunch of 2s, there was a 3, there was a 6, there was a 7, there was a 72.
Yes.
And this one, which is volume 10 by Buckcherry, which is my number 3. Probably I guess you could still call them melodic hard rock, but I think they're more sleazy, maybe. So maybe this is the different one out of my group. It's their 10th album, first since Hellbound in 2021. Produced by Marty Fredriksson, who's been fairly prolific songwriter and producer over the years. He's worked with Aerosmith quite a bit, and so forth. But it's on his record label, Round Hill Records, so they must have really tight collaboration there. Good stuff. Anaheim, California is they're from. Only one guy still with the band from the original, but they've had several guys that have been there a long time. So I really enjoyed this one a lot. I like all Buck Cherry, but I thought this one was very, very consistent. Sometimes they can be up and down their albums, but this one I thought all the songs were standouts in my opinion. So yeah, good stuff. I even like the cover of Bryan Adams on it. It's Summer of '69's on there.
Oh wow.
So it's good. I like it. So if you like Buck Cherry, don't stop with whatever you had before. Just keep going. They just keep releasing good albums.
I've got to say, I mean, I haven't heard a lot of their stuff. I have heard them, but they were about, weren't they, when the metal scene got very. I mean, they've been about for a long time now, haven't they? And they always stood their ground on this rock and roll sort of field.
I think they kind of paved the way, and now in Europe it's probably different, but in America anyway, they paved the way for this kind of resurgence of retro sounding bands to be able to get successful in the United States, because they've been doing it since '99, and then all the Darkness came out in 2003, and there's other bands that started coming back out that have a retro sound, but I think they're one of the big, and they had a huge hit right away with that Lit Up song. So they've been big for a while now, and they just keep releasing great albums.
It's nice to see the music come back around for these bands, isn't it? And then it become popular again. Very cool indeed. Yeah. I mean, if you've stuck at it and then it's come back around, that's very cool. Thanks, mate. Much appreciated. Ralph, what's your number 3, mate? Or your third pick?
My number 3, we're going to Asia, and it's a band from Japan, and they released an album early this year, like February, I think it was. It's Anthem and Crimson and Jet Black. And having been a big fan of Loudness and there we go. Sorry, Mark.
All right, no, that's good. Turnabout, fair play.
Yeah, that was really something I longed for a long time, because Loudness, in my perspective, didn't keep the quality of the early days. It became somewhat more Japanese singing and more la 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 like. And then came Anthem with this fucker of an album. I have to. It's it's so consistent from the beginning to the end. The guitaring, the riffing is monstrous, really, and the sound quality of the guitar really blows me away every time I hear this album. And of course, you have the more speedy songs like Snake Eyes or Wheels of Fire. But one of the songs that really interested me most was sort of awkward in a way. It's called Roaring Vortex.
Oh yeah, I love it.
It has a riffing structure from very below to high end, and has that very strange structure, and I love it like hell. And then there's Blood Brothers, which I think is more a classical heavy metal song. But this is an album that I heard like from beginning to the end, like the whole month of February, up and down and down and up. It was always sort of running here. So yeah, it brought me back the early Loudness experience with that immense great guitar quality and riffing and soloing, and then also the vocals I think stand out from Japanese productions that I heard so far. Yeah, it's absolutely a beautiful album. I love it to death, I have to say. Yeah, still really very, very high up. It's my number 3. So Anthem, Crimson and Jet Black.
Thank you very much. And Mark in agreement with that. It looks like Todd's.
I knew Ralph was going to have that out, because we've actually messaged back and forth about that album a while back, and he pretty much said exactly the way I feel about it. I'm a huge Loudness fan, but my love of Loudness really spans that period from '85 to about '91. Those 5 albums. After that, they went in all kind of directions. It was kind of the flavor of the month. Whatever was popular, they would experiment with. They experimented with grunge. They experimented with new metal and all kind of experimental shit. And there were some shining moments on those later albums, but even when they reunited with the original lineup, they never went back to that classic Loudness sound that that drew me in. And Anthem, like he said, they've never really deviated from that style. They knew what people wanted to hear from them, and that's what they stuck with. So, props to them for that.
And then it's a funny thing, isn't it? Because I don't know, I'm not an expert on this, but a lot of bands like Japan has always held on to this sort of music, haven't they?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I mean, they you wouldn't have to veer off into alternative metal because Japan itself, they thrive for the classic metal, don't they? That's what they want, isn't it, out there?
And a lot of the bands that fell off the planet, in the rest of the world, they were still thriving in Japan. So.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
A band like Scorpions is just like gods in Japan.
Yes, exactly.
Budokan Hall would always sold out, and they could sell out Budokan like for 2 weeks in a row.
Yeah. Very cool. That's a great pick. Thanks for that, Ralph. Thank you very much. Karen, what you got for us on your third pick?
So my number 3 is the Harmony Codex by the great Stephen Wilson, who is really I think you can call him the god of modern prog. This is a sonically stunning album, lots of very high profile musicians on it. Real mixture of styles again, sort of progressive rock, jazz rock, some electronic sort of music on it, more psychedelic kind of sound. Yeah, again, Stephen Wilson's made a very fresh and interesting album. He's like, all his albums are very different. He's like a musical chameleon. Every time he makes an album, he kind of reinvents himself. This is, actually one of my favorite tracks in this album is this sort of semi-electronic track, Beautiful Scarecrow. It's a brilliant track, and then it's got it's got this massive 10-minute prog epic Impossible Tightrope on it as well. It's a great album. Very unusual though for a Stephen Wilson album not to be top of my picks for a year.
Oh.
It's a great album, but there are 2 for me that came along that were better, which you'll hear about in a minute. So that was the Harmony Codex by Stephen Wilson.
See, this is why Karen's here, isn't it? Because we're all old men talking about heavy metal, and Karen's here giving us a different insight. And this, in case anyone's wondering at home, actually, where Dom and Jam are, we've sacked them because Karen, we got Karen now, so we don't need them. All right, so that not really. They just couldn't make it today, but But no, it's a great hearing. That's what I love about when I get lots of people on the show. When I have Jam or Dom here talking about different styles of stuff, so it's great to hear the way you talk about prog as well. It's very cool. It almost makes me want. It almost makes me want to get into it more.
It's nice to have a collective of different people who like different stuff and bring different things to the table. I think
it definitely is very cool. Thanks, Karen. Cheers for that. Okay, so my third British band is Midnight City, and the album In at the Deep End. So they're proud to say in 2023 they're a hair metal band. That's quite cool, isn't it? So I mean, I might have to get a wig on. I should have wore a wig for this one. 23rd of June this came out on Pride of Joy Music. This is their 4th album. This is the first album I had heard from this band as well. I haven't gone back or anything like that. So speaking of Japan as well, they just come off a tour of Japan. That's cool. So I mean, they can go out there, and I'm not sure how big the venues were, but all the photos that I saw from them on Facebook, the crowd, it was packed out and stuff. So that's very cool. I think they're quite popular out there. Rob Wild is the singer and songwriter. He's a very cool guy. It's basically 80s summer rock. This is melodic hard rock. Makes you just want to, you wish the summer was here when you hear it. Anyway, the opener, Get Ready to Go, is brilliant. The single, Someday, is the first time I heard them. That's a great song. Hardest Heart to Break is brilliant, and All Fall Down are probably my favourite tracks off the album. But yeah, they are bringing it back. Hair metal is here, and it's alive. It's funny, but no, it's cool. All the spandex, the hairs everywhere. It's brilliant. There you go. So us old men can smile again.